All right, guys. For this video, I'm just going to go over section C, the attack. As a reminder, we're translating Cicero's speech in defense of Milo, who's being charged with the murder of Clodius. We're also comparing this account to the historian Asconius's account that we translated in the last chapter. And there are some pretty obvious differences that Cicero includes to make Milo look better and try to get him found not guilty of murder. So let's go into the translation. Milo encounters Clodius in front of his estate at almost the 11th hour. Fere means almost. At almost the 11th hour. Or not much later. They give you this molto secus in the note, or not much later. So right away we get a discrepancy. Asconius said it was the 9th hour of the day. Cicero says the 11th hour. So it's not very clear as to why that is. But immediately, several men with weapons make an attack on this man, or sometimes Latin will use in to mean against, especially when you're talking about an attack. So against this man. So several men with weapons make an attack against this man from a higher location. And you see the IOR, which is comparative, means higher. Several men make an attack against this man from a higher location. All right, and then this contradicts Asconius's account as well, because if you remember, Asconius said that the gladiators of Milo began the fight with the servants of Clodius. All right. Cicero never mentions the gladiators at all, and he even says that it's Clodius's men, these several men. They essentially make an ambush from like a higher location, maybe behind a hill or something. All right. At Worsi, they give you in the note, those opposite kill the carriage driver. Excuse me. Those opposite kill the carriage driver. They should have given you a note for Ridarium, but hopefully it's in the back of the book. Carriage driver. However, when this man, and it's important to note here that anytime Cicero uses hikaikok for this man, he's referring to Milo, because Milo is present when Cicero is giving this speech at his trial. So you can, I think the note says, you can imagine him gesturing toward Milo whenever he uses this demonstrative adjective. So, however, when this man had jumped down, you can see the pluperfect subjunctive here. That's why I translated it as had. However, when this man had jumped down from the carriage with his cloak or traveling cloak having been thrown off. All right, so that's an ablative absolute, and most of you got that, so good job. With his cloak having been thrown off and was defending himself with a stout heart, I think that's what they tell you, or with a fierce mind, with a stout heart. So very heroic of Milo. Cicero makes him look pretty cool, jumping down and throwing off his cloak and then defending himself. Those who were with Clodius, so Clodius's men, with swords having been drawn. Gladius is the Latin word for their standard sword. The gladiators just literally means someone who wields a sword. So with swords having been drawn, all right, then you have this part is the trickiest part. You have two partums, which they help you with in the notes, but it's not very clear. So you're supposed to do some and others. Okay, so the rest of this is referring to the actions of Clodius's men. So some, and then what's extra tricky here is that there's really no verb to go to. This is an infinitive. This is an ut clause. We can kind of skip that. This is another clause. So your main verb is all the way down here, incipient. So some and incipiunt means begin. Some begin to run back to the carriage so that they might attack Milo from behind. Tergo from behind. They might attack. It looks passive, but it's active because it's from a deponent verb. So that they might attack Milo from behind. Others, because they thought that this man now had been killed. And so the note tells you to put an esse in here, and what you have is an indirect statement that we learned in Latin too, because they thought that, there's no word for that here, that this man had now been killed. And that's the super past, because the main verb is past, and then you're adding a perfect passive infinitive. So past on top of past equals had. All right. Hopefully you're still following me here. Almost done. Because they thought that this man had now been killed. So some of Clodius's men thought that Milo was dead. Because they thought that this man had now been killed, begin to attack his servants. Or begin to kill, I'm sorry, kaidere is a little bit more than attack. Begin to kill his servants who were behind. And all right, and the his here refers to Milo's servants. So Clodius's men, some run to the carriage to attack Milo from behind, but others think that Milo's already dead, so they attack his servants. All right, so there's a lot of confusion. As you know, this all is happening within minutes. And they both have entourages that, are all mostly armed. All right, so the big differences between this account and Asconius's account, the supposedly unbiased historian, is that Clodius's men start the fight, not Milo's gladiators. And then the attack itself goes a little bit differently than the way Asconius describes it. And the way Cicero paints the picture is it's all on defense. I mean, he even uses the word defender. He's defending himself. All right. And then the servants of Milo are going to play a big part in Cicero's defense that we'll get to with Clodius's death. All right. I hope you followed me on that, and hope you guys are doing well. And I will follow up shortly with a review of Section D. And then you guys will do E, the verdict, and we'll wrap this chapter up. Okay. All right. Awesome stuff. I will talk to you soon.